Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, guys, I've been saying for a while that a major problem for Joe Biden is that even if he wanted to forcefully make the case for a particular policy or particular vision, I just wasn't really sure he was up to that task. He's definitely lost some pep in his step since the days when he was mopping the floor with GOP wunderkind Paul Ryan in the vice presidential debate. But last week, he kind of proved me wrong. On January 6th, he did in fact deliver a forceful and effective speech. Take a listen.
He's not just a former president. He's a defeated former president. Defeated by a margin of over 7 million of your votes in a full and free and fair election. There is simply zero proof the election results were inaccurate.
Watching that, I could not help but think, where is this energy on literally anything else? If you can muster this type of stirring rebuke of Trump's actions on January 6th, then surely, theoretically, you could muster this type of channeled outrage at the greedy corporations raising prices, or the sold-out politicians blocking wage increases for working-class people, or the pharmaceutical giants charging Americans triple what the rest of the world pays for the very same drugs. It's not, apparently, that Biden is unable to do these things. He's just willing. And turns out, I'm not the only one who is frustrated and disgusted by some of these failures. The junior senator from Vermont, one Bernie Sanders, he's had it too, lashing out at the failures of the Biden administration and the Democratic Party in a new interview with Stephen Greenhouse. He tells Greenhouse, quote, "We have tried a strategy over the last several months, which has been mostly backdoor negotiations with a handful of senators. It hasn't succeeded on Build Back Better or on voting rights. It has demoralized millions of Americans." Now, this is striking because Senator Sanders was actually a central part of that backdoor negotiation strategy for Build Back Better as chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. Senator Sanders played a key role in crafting the initial legislation there. And as the leader of the progressive movement, Bernie also played an even more critical role in getting progressives on board with the White House's strategy of breaking Build Back Better apart from the bipartisan infrastructure deal. Now, Bernie was always clear he didn't like that direction, but he did accept it. And he brought the squad and other progressives along with a promise that the two pieces of legislation would ultimately pass in tandem. The promise that, of course, was broken and a strategy that fell apart when nearly all progressives caved to media and leadership pressure and passed the bipartisan infrastructure deal. In other words, Bernie played the good soldier for the Biden admin. He stayed on script, not saying things that might upset the apple cart with Manchin or Sinema, and ultimately, it didn't work. It was a failed strategy for Biden, and it was a failed strategy for Bernie and the progressives, too. These new remarks seem like an opening salvo in a more pointed critique of the party, especially because they don't actually come in isolation. In addition to trashing the Biden administration strategy, Bernie trashed the direction of the Democratic Party writ large. He told Stephen Greenhouse in that interview, quote, "It is no great secret that the Republican Party is winning more and more support from working people. It's not because the Republican Party has anything to say to them. It's because in too many ways, the Democratic Party has turned its back on the working class." Even more striking, in my opinion, was Bernie's statement on January 6th. He said what he needed to say about the general awfulness of that day. But he also dared to suggest that Democrats and Republicans both shared some blame for leading the country to such a horrendous place. Quote, "Over and over again, people in this country see the very rich become much richer while politicians and the corporate media ignore the collapse of the middle class and the painful realities facing working families." He continued, "Democrat or Republican, who cares? Nothing changes, or if it does, it's usually for the worst." Okay, so he's saying the right stuff. But what does it matter? The inept corporate wing of the Democratic Party has all the power, all the mainstream media organs. Bernie has proven himself to only be willing to go so far when it comes to criticizing Joe Biden personally. But he does still matter for progressives in a big way. He does still set the tone, both for elected squad members and for a lot of lefties on the outside. And he's just created a permission structure for some of the less courageous voices on that side of the aisle to criticize the party and the president. It's no accident that this comes at the very same time that progressives are starting to suggest to journalists that they may just mount a primary challenge of Joe Biden. I recently highlighted this article from Politico's Holly Otterbein, who is well-sourced on the left. The piece suggests Nina Turner or Marianne Williamson could primary Biden, include some pretty bombastic quotes from former Bernie campaign manager Jeff Weaver and from former AOC aide Corbin Trent. As the piece notes, don't expect such a challenge to come from a current elected, but from someone on the outside, someone with some real spine and courage. Failure of the elected left's play nice strategy is just as clear as the failure of the Biden admin's backdoor strategy. At the very least, Bernie's comments and increasing agitation are a sign that they have noticed that. Now, will they actually do anything different? Will they enter the second year of the Biden admin still satisfied with Ron Klain liking their tweets, content with having more cocktail party invites and having more fun in DC? Gesturing at the party's failures is a step in the right direction. Making some noise about a primary challenge, that's a good start, but talk is cheap. Things will get interesting if they lean into their divides with the Dems on corruption, on curbing corporate greed, on universal programs as opposed to neoliberal means testing. Name and shame them. Force votes, and yeah, bring on the primary. Let's see where this goes. What did you make of Bernie's comments? Because it's definitely a different tone from what we've heard from. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut. Our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions. All that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.